I got a question. If your employer make you work 12, 14 hours a day, make you work 4 or 5 hours overtime, then make it mandatory for you to take that time off before the week is over, is that legal?
It probably is, because the way the overtime law works is it's calculated on a week-by-week basis, so that if you are working the overtime and then being required to take off the next day, as long as it's in the same work week, then it would not be overtime, and the hours would be calculated based on the total number of hours for the week.
So let me ask you this then. If someone works above or works overtime, I guess, at what point should they make sure and get paid for that?
Well, it's when the 40 hours is the key.
Okay.
So that once you hit 40 hours, then you're supposed to be getting overtime. And there are some things that we look for, such as whether or not you get to work early before the start of your shift, and with the knowledge of management, you're allowed to go to work, and maybe you have an automatic deduction for an unpaid meal break, and if you're required to perform work during your meal break, that would be potentially an overtime violation if you otherwise would have 40 hours in the work week. And then at the end of the shift, if they tell you to clock out and keep working, all of those would be things that would go to establishing an overtime claim.
Well, if someone feels like they have what you've just mentioned and they feel like they do have a claim, what is the process for actually filing a lawsuit? Because obviously they can face intimidation, maybe going up against their employer. So what is the steps? What are their rights at that point?
Well, first, to see a lawyer.
Okay.
I think it would not be practical to try to be able to pursue an overtime case without some expertise. But then, along with seeing a lawyer, the process is that we meet with you, we get the information we need, generally pay stubs, things of that nature, establish that there is a claim, and then past that to file the complaint, and then that process, absent settlement, can take easily a year or better.
David, tell the folks a little about the anti-retaliation provisions in many of the federal laws so that you can quell some of those concerns about folks complaining about bad acts by their employer.
Right, absolutely. The law in almost all of these categories, for all the discrimination statutes, for the overtime statutes, for the Family Medical Leave Act, if you complain about these things, then you have the right to be able to pursue a claim for retaliation if your employer takes action, adverse action against you as a result of your raising this. As an example, if you complained that you were working overtime and being paid straight time for both hours under 40 as well as over 40, and you complain about it, and you get a comment like, if you don't like it, just leave. Or, you know, I've had enough of that. All you do is complain. So, you know, hit the door. That type of thing would give grounds to a retaliation claim under the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is the overtime law. And that law also covers minimum wage.
So you have some protection.